Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, teaching and modifying weight training technique video number 5, how to fix bad technique. 4 points. First, when you are cueing and telling people better ways to do the technique or pointing out the not so great ways they're doing it now, there are a couple of rules you can use. This is all in point number 1, by the way, as you can see right there. First, some conversation is going to occur before the set, some during the set, and some post-set. And it's generally going to be 1 to 2 cues at a time in each one of these intervals. For example, before the set, not when you're teaching technique for the first time, of course, but when you're fixing bad technique, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, preset. You pick 1 or 2, and I mean no more than 1 or 2, technique fixes or cues you want to focus on, and you communicate those to the client so that they're front of mind. On the last set, they let their chest cave in on the squat. Okay. Before the set starts, you say, hey, you did great on the last set of squats. I want you to really pay attention to your chest position. It's going to try to fall on you. I want you to make sure you lift it up. Does that sound good? And they're like, okay, yeah, chest up, got it. Maybe another cue, but really it's 1 to 2, like more like 1 in any given set that they do. The next set, you can introduce another cue, no big deal. But preset, it's good to talk to them about what you want to focus on. Because remember, this is how to fix bad technique. If they have great technique, you don't need to cue them up for shit. You just need to cue them in the set if they screw up. But if you know they're going to be doing a technique that they usually screw up or have been screwing up, announcing it beforehand is a very good idea. It's like a teacher in class saying, all right, today we're going to learn about the countries of Africa. It's just kind of strange for the teacher to start talking and be like, all right, let me tell you about Nigeria and let me tell you about this. And I'm like, well, wait, is this about Africa? What are we learning about? The client should be told, hey, listen, I want you to focus on this in the next set. That keeps it front of mind and gives you a much higher probability they'll rectify the problem. Intraset, 1 to 2, and almost certainly no more corrections to what they are doing wrong. Why? Your client's bandwidth for processing verbally communicated, auditorily accepted information is very low during a set. 2 reasons why. 1, they're busy coordinating their body and space. Nobody's having a conversation with you when they're lifting. They're focused on lifting. 2, especially towards the end of a set, there's an unbelievable amount of discomfort. Discomfort plus the added task of doing something while you're discomfort, and here you're telling them 5 different things they can fix, will not work. Worse than will not work. They'll perceive that you're telling them a bunch of things. They won't be able to process them. They will become more likely to be frustrated and to quite honestly be annoyed. To be like, all right, hold on. Good. What? Do what? Do what with my butt? Chest what? Head position, huh? Too much. Just 1 or 2 cues repeated when you want to tell them, hey, you're doing this great, or when there's, oh, you can do this better. During the set, that's it. Post-set. A lot of coaches and trainers, after the set is over, they this kind of this false victory sense of, you did it, it's over. Okay, great. No. Every serious mission in the military, for example, they do a debriefing. They go, hey, what did we get right? What did we get wrong? What could we do better? So on and so forth. Doesn't mean you have to pull out the maps of Afghanistan after every single set for your clients, but it's a good thing to be like, hey, you really stepped up to the plate. I love that you brought your chest up. Let's focus a little bit more on that in the next set. That's all you have to say. Can you say a bit more? Sure. Can you say a bit less? Of course. But it's a good idea, especially to keep that thread going, to comment before, during, and after the set, so that the client gets all 3 vectors of information and swims in a sea of directionality towards good technique and away from bad technique. Because bad technique is not something you want them to ingrain and learn. We'll have another lecture in a bit about how to fix that. It's an uphill battle. You want to be consistent in making sure they get really, really good messaging. Now, this is assuming that they understand your cues. There's a difference between the cue coming out of your mouth and them in the parts of their brain and nervous system that replicate information verbally, translate from verbal information to proprioceptive information of how they move, which can be transferred through visual information. They like sort of imagine, okay, butt back. I see what you mean by that. They feel it proprioception wise before the set starts or during the set, and they can visualize what it's like to move the butt back. It's a big assumption. If you say butt back, some clients will take that verbal input and transfer it to the proper movement output. Some clients won't. And if it's not working, you don't just yell it more. Sometimes you have to say, listen, let me tell you what I mean by this. You want them to try to understand the reasoning. Say, hey, when I say butt back on the stiff-legged deadlift, I literally mean as you descend. I want you to push your butt to try to touch the wall behind you with it. That will pre-stretch your hamstrings and give us that nasty back of the leg pain that we're looking for. And they go, oh, okay. That's what you mean by, because I feel like, how can I put my butt back? I'll just fall on my ass. Like, yeah, no, totally. I don't mean like literally sit back, but I mean just gently push your back towards the wall behind you. Just explaining that cue can take that cue from being like, I don't know what that means. You're saying butt back, but there's all sorts of words that you tell me that mean nothing to me, right? I say stratospheric boundary layer, and you're like, I think I know what that means. I know what all those words mean. I don't know what you want me to do with that. We are so used to in the training world, you as a personal trainer, as an online coach, you're so used to swimming in the sea. You're so used to speaking a language. You're so used to understanding that all these cues to you are just like a language you know. But remember, when you're dealing with personal training clients and online clients, they don't speak the language sometimes. So you're going to have to do a little translating. That might work. Often it does. Sometimes it doesn't. You say, well, you see what I'm saying about the whole pushing the butt back to the wall? And they're like, I think I get it. And they do this thing and you're like, okay. No worries. If that doesn't work, try another cue. Tons of cues. You say hips back. You say hips up. You say sit back. You say lean back. There's 12 trillion other things you could say. You can try to pull their hips back at the bottom of a lift with low weight to get them to do that. That's not even an auditory cue. That's a tactile cue. You can use the kitchen sink. What I want you to do is this. Don't use the kitchen sink at once. Pick one or two good cues for the problem area you're trying to fix. Hit them before the set, during the set, after the set. Usually with the same cues. You can alter them a bit. You can do one cue before the set begins and the same cue during the set. No new cues that they don't understand during the set. And after the set, you can use another cue to try to reaffirm with the set, but generally all use the same cues in that arc of pre, during, and post set. Just a few at a time. Make sure that you're communicating in a way that's understood. And then lastly, if it's not understood, either try to explain it better, have it understood, or say, hey, you know what, don't worry about the butt back thing. Here, let me tell you another way to think about this. And then you give them another cue. You try that on for size. At some point, something's going to stick. If it doesn't, I don't know, it's just ruthlessly unathletic. And it's good that you're a computer programmer, sir, because your movement is not something you'll ever be good at. I'm kidding, of course. You got to just try to do your best. Next, you have some tools in your arsenal, point number 2, that can help you fix bad technique more effectively. The first is slow eccentrics. When the person's positioning in the squat is suboptimal, let's say they squat down a ton and not back enough, they end up on their tippy toes at the bottom of the squat. If that's the case, it can be really hard to get them to squat in the right position because while you're cueing them, they're squatting. And they're like, oh, down and back. I'm already at the bottom of the squat. If you have them slow down, they're eccentric. Now they're squatting down slowly. There's enough time for the latency of understanding the communication you're saying to be eaten up and for them to be like, oh, back. And they're still halfway down. And they start sinking back, and all of a sudden their heels are on the ground, and they're like, I got it. You do a couple of reps, a couple of sets, a couple of weeks of slow eccentrics to get them in the right position. And the reason slow eccentric works again is because they have time to make the correction while they're still in the lift. If that's the case, they can make the correction. They start to get smoother and smoother and smoother. All of a sudden, the technique is ingrained. You don't have to do anything. And you start speeding it up. You say, hey, a little faster now, a little faster next week, a little faster. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, they're doing regular speed squats exactly in the plane of motion that you want. And they're not tippy-toeing their feet anymore because you took the time and regressed the movement back to a slower eccentric. A critical feature of almost all motor learning across all disciplines in sports is if you want to get a technique done right, you got to do it slow at first. What is that? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. The is should be yields instead of is, or causes. Is stupid as it all doesn't happen at the same time. Moving slow makes you move smooth, and moving smoothly allows you to move quickly in the right position. So slow eccentrics are a huge tool that you can use. Next, pauses. A lot of times, people will have a good movement on the eccentric of a lift, but at the bottom of the lift, they'll transition weird and try to bounce out, and it'll take their bar path and push it one way or another wrong, and they're like, ugh, they're just trying to survive. And you're like, oh my God, that was terrible. A really good way to fix that is to have them do a pause. A pause takes all the momentum out. It takes all the extraneous movement out. It zeroes the system to where they just focus on one thing. Pause on the way down. Pause, and then up. And then slow eccentric. Pause, and then up. Because even if you do a slow eccentric, and then you go up, they go, whoa, and they go somewhere else. It's a way for them to zero the system and keep the movement fractional. They cannot do the movement properly if it's eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric. Too much going on. You split it up. Pause at the top, slow eccentric, pause. Just concentric, that's all you have to think about. Pause. Just eccentric, that's all I have to think about. Pause. Breaking the movement down like that with pauses at the bottom and or at the top is a really good tool when someone is not hitting the right positions and thus their technique is flawed. Another great thing about pauses is it's a real nasty secret way to get people to squat or leg press or hack squat with more depth, or lunge, most leg movements, a lot of other movements as well. Why? People will not try to squat or leg press deep. All you say is, at the bottom, I want you to pause. They come halfway down and they pause. They go back up. You go, okay, good. I want you to go lower now before you pause. They go down, they pause. You go lower, and they go, oh, fuck. And they go lower, and they pause. You go lower, and they pause. And they go, oh, okay, and they come up. Great. Because it's easy when you don't have to pause to go down a certain depth and you go, and you come back up. You can't even tell sometimes as a coach or a trainer, like, was that to depth? They did it so quick, I can't tell. And I can't tell if their body was in the right position at the bottom. If I have them do a slow eccentric and a pause, I can see exactly how high they're cutting their depth. And I can say with every next repetition, lower, 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 until they're hitting deep, deep, deep. And they'll often look at you and be like, am I doing it yet? And you're like, yes, you're finally doing it. Like, no shit, this sucks. But they're like, oh my God, my legs. And legs get sore. They look sexy after a few months. And they're like, I love you. You're great. I hate the pauses. I'll never be down with that shit, but thank God you made me do it. Lastly, giant sets. Giant sets, they usually everyone else, but I think us call them marathon sets. We just mistitled it and we're just going with it. Are sets in which you set a total number of reps that you need to do. And you don't care how many sets it takes to get you there. You count repetitions, but there's no goal in any one set. For example, you're going to do 50 sets of bench press, 50 total reps of bench press. And you don't care if it's some of the sets are 5 reps, some of the sets are 10, some of the sets are 12. What this does is because you just add them up, like I got 5, and then I got 5, and then I got 12. And okay, that's 22 so far. You got another 28 to go, and then you're good to go. If you take your workload and split it up for your client into a giant set, it takes the pressure off of having to hit a certain number of reps. Sometimes bad technique really occurs when they know they have to hit like 12 reps. because last week they hit 12 with 100 pounds. It's 105 pounds this time. It's 12 again. They know that progression. You're telling them. And towards the last couple reps, like, I got to get more. They go, and everything goes to hell. If you tell them, look, I'm only counting reps that are good technique. And as soon as your technique breaks down, I give you one opportunity to fix it in a set. If you do, you get another rep. If you do, you get another rep. If you do, you get another rep. Great. If you take 2 reps in a row that aren't up to snuff, rack, okay? You got 7 good reps, 2 shit reps. We're at 7 reps so far. Rest all you need. We'll go again and we'll get another some number of reps until we get to our final rep goal. Because the client now understands the 2 things. 1, only good reps are counted. And 2, there is no longer any pressure to do any number of reps in the set. They can just focus on doing a good job. Perverse analogy, but nonetheless holds, I think. Can you imagine if someone was like, hey, we're going to make love, and I want exactly 900 strokes out of you, and that's going to be the ticket. And they better occur in 5 minutes and 33 seconds, or I'm just not going to have a good time. Like, oh my God. What? Geez, I better do a good job. This is the worst experience of my life. There's a lot of pressure. What you want to do is say, listen, every stroke is quality. I believe I'm running with this analogy. Sorry, we're all adults here, right? Hopefully you're watching this in the comfort of your own home with no children around. Mommy, what's a stroke? Like, well, is he the stork? Never mind. So quality is job number 1. No distractions. You turn on a little smooth jazz, light a couple candles, keep them away from the curtains, the usual. And then it's just about doing the thing that we're there to do. Training is much the same way. Smooth jazz, candles. No, wait. Training is much the same way. If someone is repeatedly doing bad technique and it's really happening towards the end of a set because they're chasing the reps, listen, super common. Regress away and say, listen, don't worry about it. We're not doing sets of 10 or 12 anymore. We're doing total of 40. I don't care if it takes us 3 sets to get there or takes us 6 sets. Every single time you do 2 bad technique reps in a row, we're cutting you off. But if you can keep doing more reps of good technique, you're fucking winning, and it's great. And listen, there's no pressure. There's no pressure at all to do it a certain number of sets. We are here to do our best, and I want you to understand that quality is job number 1. If you can convey that, giant sets are the perfect tool to get them that happy feeling of accomplishment. Hey, you got all 40 reps. Congratulations, you did it. Because it's not just arbitrary, like we're going to do 4 sets. And if it's 4 reps per set or 10 reps, we don't care. The client's going to be like, but isn't 10 reps going to get me better results? I'm like, well, yeah. But if it's 40 total of highly effective reps and get there one way or another, research shows it doesn't really matter. You're remotely close to failure. You get a good opportunity to grow muscle. So again, the big thing is giant sets take off that pressure. They allow the client to focus, and that can do a really good thing. This works. I do this with myself. When my technique gets carried away in an exercise, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do giant sets and focus on every rep being perfect, and the reps will add up. Great tool. Next, if needed, you can do what's called load renorming. Sometimes you start a client on a leg press, and the technique is at first, let's say, very good. As you increase the reps over the weeks, over the months, as you increase the load, the client can get carried away and say, okay, I need to PR. I need to hit more reps. I need to hit more weight. And the technique over time can slowly degrade. Their eccentrics are off. Their bar position is off. They're bouncing a bit too much. And if you're still, let's say you're targeting leg presses in the 5 to 10 rep range with your client, with the load they're using now, maybe they came to you from another trainer and the load they're using for leg press is not a load that they will be able to handle for sets of 5 to 10 reps with good technique. If you're going to renorm their technique, change their technique to be a much better one, which is to say per given unit of load, much more challenging, which almost all good technique is in hypertrophy training, they're going to get out of that rep range entirely. And you're not there to do sets of 3. So you don't have to say, hey, listen, I know that you're used to doing 300 pounds in a leg press. You're the man. We're going to take you down to 200 pounds. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, though maybe you are in your private life. It just means that we're going to focus on technique and working our way back up. And I can promise you one thing. When you get back up to using 300 pounds with good technique, with better technique, you are going to have the most muscular and actually stronger legs than you've ever had, because it's going to be good technique to that road versus try to get out of the way, try to get the tendons to do the most work, cut the range of motion as much as possible. Bad technique. So what you do is you take some weight off the bar. This must be communicated to the client as not a punishment. It is not, well, hey, you're just not ready for this load. It's not a moral thing. It's just a matter of taking every single rep and making it high quality, of taking every single set and making it high quality. And if they really push back on you to some extent, or they're kind of skeptical, like, oh, but really the 40s and the dumbbells, I haven't done anything less than 55 in years. Am I backtracking? No. Here's a good thing to tell them. It doesn't matter who the lifter is. If they're fucking Mr. Olympia, whatever they're bent rowing 400 pounds with good technique, it is very easy to put so much weight on the bar to demand they do the same reps that you will engineer bad technique. Anyone of any strength can get bad technique if they lift too much weight for their current strength. When you reduce the load on an exercise that a person is using, you are not taking away their strength. You are enhancing their technique so that given the same strength, they now have better technique, which means later they'll be even stronger and even bigger and even less likely to get hurt and even less connective tissue wear and tear. It's all winning all the way around. The best part, you get to use less load, so it doesn't crush you as much. You don't have to haul the 70-pound dumbbells back and forth. Now it's just the 55s. Ego will be a big enemy to having your clients swallow the pill of technique renorming. So you're going to have to sugarcoat it and say, this is something we're doing for your benefit. You guys know what the best part about this is? It's true. They say, listen, Jim, if you want to fucking Icarus yourself with 50 pounds on the fucking incline fly, my man, I'll stand right behind you and watch you get a catastrophic injury. But I'm on your side, motherfucker. I want you to have the biggest pecs possible with the least chance of shoulder pain. Doesn't that sound great? Yes. Let's get the 40s a try. Because when you can do high quality with the 40s, guess what we're doing the week after? 42.5. And you'll never guess what we'll do the week after that, 45. 55s that you've been doing is a pointless attachment to a needless standard, a standard that no longer applies. If someone learned to speak German really not well, their pronunciation sucks, but they can speak it pretty fast, a German language teacher will start to have them talk slower. At what point would a German language student be like, oh, hold on, you're insulting me here. You're taking me back to like 4th grade. Yeah, because that's going to help you. A German teacher's not, well, maybe a German teacher's like, you're doing this all wrong, but they're on your side. And it's not a punishment. It's not like, well, you thought you were this strong, but you're not. No, you are this strong. And your technique here is good, but it can be better. And the way it can be better is if we take the weight, sometimes in this case, and we reduce it substantially and allow you to have amazing hard ass sets right away. I'm not talking about taking the weight down and then doing way reps shy of failure. That's for if your technique is atrocious and you need a total renorm, which we'll talk about in the next lecture. Just going back, going sets of 10 with great technique, that's going to be the best set of your life right there. After you've done the 80-pound dumbbells for sets of 8, and they kind of feel like shit because you're cheating everything. When you go back to the 60s and you do your first set of 10, and you're like, okay, wow, okay, yes, I feel my pecs more. Everything else hurts less. Thank God I did this. Every time I've technique renormed in my entire training career, I thank myself a million times over. Is it egotistically painful sometimes? Sure. Is that what a good trainer and coach and client coach relationship is? Absolutely. Lastly, the importance of consistency in applying technical corrections. If your client gets reinforced a certain technique from you once, they fix it on the spot. They never hear about it again. They screw it up again later, and they get reinforced, maybe then, maybe not, inconsistently, and then they screw it up again, and then they get it reinforced. The probability that they'll fix it is lower. The amount of time it'll take for them to fix it is also lower. When you want to zone in on improving bad technique, you don't have to do it every single time they get it wrong. You don't have to bark at them. Most times you should say something. Most times you should communicate. Most times you should teach. Most times they should modify. Consistency, not over one session, over multiple sets, over multiple sessions, over multiple weeks, if not months, ingraining those cues, ingraining those motor patterns, including when they're already doing the thing right, cueing them about doing it right, but positively. Hey, that chest up is awesome. That's the best squat I've ever seen. Versus, hey, you got to get your chest up. Even when they're already having their chest up, at least for a few weeks after they first started doing that well, and maybe kind of all the time, you cue the right stuff. I've seen high-level competitive powerlifters who have been lifting for 15 years get cued by other guys in the gym. Everything they're being told is shit they know and shit they always do. Why are they being told it? Because it always helps ingrain that technique deeper and deeper and deeper, so that when the client is closer to failure, when they're most fatigued, when it's the highest reps, when the pain is the highest, the more ingrained their understanding is, the more there's a chance that they're just going to keep doing it right anyway. And if you have a client who, with you just crossing your hands and standing back, does a perfect set all the way to muscular failure and never flinches once, and their technique is always good, you did a great job. So staying on top of reinforcing, making sure they're getting away from errors, and then reinforcing good habits and principles and cues, even if they're not committing them anymore, sets that foundation for the probability of them regressing back to bad technique as much, much lower. Everyone's winning. Everyone's happy. There's even clowns. Maybe there's not clowns. That's disturbing. See you guys next time for the next lecture.